My friends, today on the Unofficial Shopify podcast, we get to feature a wonderful brand with an incredible product, bringing American manufacturing back, and one I'm exceptionally proud of because my team helped build their Shopify theme. I'm thrilled today to get to share the Montana Knife Company story with you. Brandon Horoho is going to join us and lay it out for us. Brandon, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
Kurt, dude, I am doing great. Absolutely great. And I'm stoked to be on the podcast because this is full circle. Because I was a listener when I was trying to set up my very first Shopify website. And then, like you said in the intro, we actually got to work together on my current project. And like I said, this is cool. I'm glad to riff with you for a bit.
To refer to what MKC has begun, to refer to what Montana Knife Company has become as my current project, wow, does that undersell it? This is an 8-figure brand.
I had this small agency where I was just, connecting Shopify with Klaviyo, and I wanted to work with, honestly, American-made makers and try to help them get onto the digital platform. And, that's where I met Josh. We started talking, and so it started as a project that turned into an entire life. And I always I warn people, watch those side hustles, because those side hustles might turn into 80 employees, a massive mortgage, and 6 CNC machines downstairs. So
is that you have 80 employees today?
Yes. Yep. So as of this week, we just broke 80 employees.
Congrats. How long has MKC been around?
So MKC, officially has been around for 4 years. So January 1st is kind of like our jumping point, but it's been around for 4 years. But it's also, it started 30 years ago with Josh Smith, my business partner. He started making knives at the age of 11, became the youngest master bladesmith at the age of 19. Him and his mother actually had the hindsight to register the name Montana Knife Company in, I believe, like 1999 or like 2001. And they registered the name, and they actually purchased the URL too. So if it wasn't for Josh and his mom, like, MKC might not actually be the brand it is today.
That is some serious foresight. Impressive.
Seriously.
So Montana Knife Company, you guys sell spoons or forks?
We prefer to sell spoons or knives that identify as spoons, if Facebook is asking.
But MKC, it's all knives, or there are other product offerings?
Yeah, so MKC, it started off as a hunting knife brand, and I honestly thought, this is probably one of the most wrong I've ever been in my business career. Of I thought we were going to set this company up, and we were going to sell one knife to every person, and it was kind of going to be like the Yeti of the knife world. I couldn't have been more wrong. So now our average customer owns anywhere between 3 and 4 knives, and then you extrapolate that over all the other branded material that we sell, hats, t-shirts, cutting boards, razors, and MKC is almost becoming an incubator too for other American made companies.
How so? By sourcing these other accessory items?
Yeah, exactly. So, one of our biggest things that that we've been doing to help like grow this brand and grow other brands is through collaborations. So, we've been doing collaborations with, big, apparel brands. We've been doing, collaborations with local, companies. Like there's a razor company that sells like, face shaving razors out of Bozeman. And, we came up with the MKC version of that. It was a high ticket item. It was a $125 razor, which is not typical. And it absolutely crushed. So, it's cool to build this brand around a solid product of, like, we do make the best hunting knives. We can plant our flag and we can say that, but then like, the brand is known for its quality. So we're able to go and find other brands that kind of live the same ethos as we do and put them on a platform, do a collaboration, and, almost springboard them at the same time.
That must be very satisfying.
It really is. I just got off a call with the wood shop that makes all of our cutting boards. So culinary is probably like our second largest division in Montana Knife Company. We sell a lot of chef knives. So because one of our motto is first blood to last bite. So the goal is to have a knife from when you're in the hunting field the whole way down to your steak knives at your dinner table. And we were meeting with them. It's Montana Block Co. out of Billings, and it's just amazing to meet with them because like, we had our entire meeting forecasting how many cutting boards we were going to need for this year, plus some other fun accessory items. And they're like, they looked at us, you could tell they're almost starting to tear up because they're like, we can hire now. like with that PO, like I can actually go out and hire, a couple more people to help us, in our new shop and stuff like that. And like, I have goosebumps. Like, that's what I wanted. Like, that's what I love doing, is like, not only is our company growing, we're hiring 80 people, but then we're also, stimulate the economy in another town in Montana.
You're reinvesting in very real ways in your local economy. Just quite incredible. One of the things I think is so powerful about what you've built with Montana Knife Company is the brand itself. I mean, you have an exceptional product and it is a premium product. And then but with it is the brand storytelling. The brand storytelling is exceptional. And I think it is a big part of your success. Tell me about that narrative and its impact on your audience.
Yeah, and that's like one thing we get credit about, is like a lot of, we get credited for having like a really good brand, a really good story. And it's more about like our ability to tell about, and then also like Josh and I are living this brand. So, Josh is the CEO, I am technically the vice president or CMO. Like, so, you know, we're figuring this out in real time. You know, Josh was a lineman before this. I had a small marketing agency. Never did I ever think we'd be running, an 8-figure business with this many employees, within 3 to 4 years. So, our brand and our story is honestly just like the transparency behind the scenes. Like, that's the biggest thing is, since day one, we launched this business during the peak of COVID. Like, I'm talking during lockdowns. We launched this, this brand, and the first year of our brand was literally me on Instagram just complaining that, like, the US government and other foreign, entities have gone and bought up all the tool steel, that we can use to make knives. And we literally couldn't find steel in 2020 to make knives. And it even got to the point where some of our early fans and adopters were like, hey, I got this old car in the back of the yard that has some springs in it. Like, I could send you springs, and I got these old saws, and I got, like, we're like, we appreciate it, but we need a specific type of steel that's not already like heat treated. And, but like, so like the first year was literally just us explaining how we're building this company, being extremely fully transparent, probably almost too transparent at some points. But that's what I think, people like adopted us so quick. And then, it is the true underdog story, because, everyone told us that we couldn't do American made knives. It is at scale because it's very, very hard. And then, the companies that are already doing it, they've been around for, some 30 years, some 60 years, and some of the, the real big guys, they've been around for over 100 years. They have a 100-year head start on us, so the deck was definitely stacked against us, but we said that, we didn't really have another option than to try. And now 4 years later, we're starting to, rub elbows with those guys, and it's just absolutely wild.
If you told me what you were trying to do and where it would go in 4 years, I would not have bet money on it, because growing to mid 8 figures in 4 years in a hyper competitive space with what is a premium product that has cheaper alternatives, and it has been zero issue. You have sold out weekly, haven't you? What, 120 consecutive weeks?
Yeah, it's well over 100 weeks of straight drops every single Thursday night.
Tell me about this drop model, because like during the pandemic especially, that was like peak drop model. We saw a lot of that, and it kind of fell out of favor with marketers. I still like it. Clearly it's working for you.
Yeah, and it's wild, like, because like we'll do it, and then like we'll sell out real quick, and and obviously the trolls hop in our comments and like, oh, they're only selling 5 knives, they're building scarcity, like all that stuff. Like, Josh and I literally just signed our houses over to cover the mortgage on the next facility. Trust me, I am not holding knives back from anybody. We need all the help and support we can get, for funding, the next facility to help us like grow our business. So like the idea of us manufacturing scarcity is just so wild for us, because literally we're hiring at the rate of like almost like 1 or 2 people a week downstairs in the manufacturing side just to build that. But it all started, 4 years ago, where, Josh and I literally put the very first, order of, Montana Knife Company knives like on credit cards. Back then, it'd take, 3 or 4 months to go through the entire process to build a couple hundred knives. And we didn't know we were going to sell the first batch. So we only ordered enough that first batch. They sold out in 14 minutes. And we're like, okay. So then we put another rush order in. So there was another, it was almost another like 3 or 4 months before we had another drop. And, me being a marketer, like I still needed something to talk about in those 3 to 4 months. So I never stopped marketing, and we couldn't. And the other thing too, is like, we never wanted to take pre-orders, because we still were refining our process of like how to make these knives. And we never wanted to take money from somebody that we didn't know we couldn't deliver that knife. That was the hindsight that Josh and I had on that, like, was so incredible that I'm so glad we stuck to that. Everybody, every business suit that we could talk to is like, take pre-orders. You can leverage that against banknotes and do all this stuff. And we're like, no, it's not the right thing to do, because like, yeah, we ordered another couple hundred knives, but we don't know if some of those are going to get messed up in the process, or we're going to sharpen it, or, like there's a bunch of things that can go wrong. So we never took a pre-order, but with in between those drops, it gave me 3 months to sell these knives. So, I mean, I was posting every single day, building our email list, our text message list. And like, and then even like I'm talking month 1 or 2 in like 2020, I started as like, okay, well, I'll start doing collabs. I went down to the local coffee roaster in Missoula. I was like, hey, like, because I had a client that did coffee, and I was like, I could sell coffees. I was like, hey, can we private label a bunch of bags of coffee? We'll do it as a local collab. And that was one of our first collabs, and then I did it with, one of our mutual friends, Kurt, Casey Bard at Tacticalories.
Love Tacticalories.
I went to college with him. I was like, hey, can you just make a seasoning that's based around knives? And I think it's like fire salt or something like that. And we launched that. So we did a bunch of things to kind of just fill the space in between. We had a knife launch. And then, with all the energy we were putting into it, the knife, we would have our second drop, and, they sold out even faster, 4 minutes. And then we started getting into the pace where we're like, okay, we'll start ordering, we got some confidence in the brand and what we were doing. So we started ordering more frequently, but we still weren't betting our houses on it yet. So it took us, almost a year or two to actually get to the point where we were having knives available once a month or twice a month. And then year 3, we started, making enough knives to go every single Thursday. And then we were starting like, okay, we can start trying to put some stuff in stock. And I mean, we're 4 years in. We've been trying to put something in stock every single day for the past 2 years. We can keep stuff in stock for maybe a week on some of our older models, but they're usually gone before we can replenish them.
That there's too much winning here. When have you had a failure? Have you ever had one of these product drops just not go as planned, just fall flat?
Just completely bust on the product drops. I mean, more probably on like the apparel side, but not so far on the knife side. We definitely had a couple knives that I wouldn't say they were a failure, but they were just either too close to an existing model where like the customer doesn't need 2 of them, where the sell-through is just a little bit slower. But I can't say we've had any major just absolute fails. We're very, very calculated. And the thing is too, is like, we know our customer base. Like that is like one thing I have to say is like, we're constantly in like our Facebook, secret group where, I'm still running our social media personally myself. So I'm still posting, I have help with the comments and DMs, but I'm still posting, I'm still interacting. We're still really tapped in. So for us to make bets, I think we're doing pretty good so far.
Tell me about your email and SMS list. It's huge. I'm guessing this is a big part of your sales success in addition to the social media channel, but tell me a little bit about your approach to having a big ass newsletter.
Yeah. So this is 15 to 20 years in the making. So, I've been doing email marketing since, early 2010s. I got into it with another very heavily advertising restricted business, which was the supplement world. So like, I've never had these massive budgets, and I've never had, the ability to go do paid ads and stuff like that. So, and I've always been like one-man marketing teams for all the businesses I've worked for. So all the responsibility has been on me. And the one thing I learned is that like, you cannot mess around when you own your own data. Like that is the secret to running a successful business and being completely efficient or self-reliant on, your own business versus like, relying on Facebook and Meta and all the other stuff. I got to literally, almost like 15 years of making mistakes. I got to put into MKC, and I got to start MKC fresh with fresh data, zero emails. It was amazing. So we built that list extremely, healthy from the ground up. And then again, like I always say, like our email and text message, like that's the nail. I'm the hammer. That's my go-to. So we started building that list from the ground up, and we did it very, very slowly, but meticulously at the same time. We've never given an offer away to anybody. We've never given a discount on a knife. So if you sign up, the only way you can sign up for our email is like, hey, do you want this knife? Yes or no? And we'll email it to you when you're available. And so it's been, at the very beginning, it was very hard to start getting those emails, but I was getting very, very hot customers who actually wanted to help support the brand. And the one thing too is like we email very heavy, and we have a very, 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 very small unsubscribe rate compared to other brands that I've helped grow and work for and stuff like that. So, and the reason why I think that is so true is because we put so much effort into our emails. So we send out at least 5 emails a week, 3 of them on Thursday. We send out 3 emails to our entire list every Thursday, but every single email has its own dedicated creative, its own dedicated photo shoot. It is, to me, we put more effort into our emails than most brands put into their TV commercials.
And so those emails, all that effort into those emails, those are what lead up to these recurring, wonderfully successful Thursday product drops, right?
Right.
That's the tip of the iceberg is the product drop. I go, yeah, we always sell out, it sells it instantly. But the thing everyone's not seeing is the amount of effort you're putting leading up to that, is my guess.
Right. And that's, and whenever, people come to me for advice, especially, marketers that are not owners of the business, they come to me and they're like, hey, how are you growing an email list? How are you doing this? And I explain it to them. And I tell them listen, we send out all of our marketing the week before and there's 0 conversion. It makes people shake because they're so used to basing all their stuff off of these these marketing metrics. When you're the marketing director and you own the company and you're spending your own money on things, you're what the numbers you care about completely change. So conversion rate, it's funny because from Sunday until that Thursday night, we have a 0 conversion rate. Our click-through rate is not that great, but the second that thing hits on Thursday night, all those metrics completely change that week, and obviously because you get the analytics backfill those emails. But like I said, we try to sell, we try to pre-market so hard that we sell through everything.
That pre-marketing. And, the other thing that's counterintuitive, so many people will say, I only make data-driven decisions, right? And they become obsessed with, I can only do things that some KPI agreed with at some point. And in your case, you're saying that would talk people out of the approach you're taking because you send so many emails that a majority of the emails you send by KPI, if we're going, oh, this is data driven, you would go, well, those didn't work. And the reality is they do work, but it is part of a longer funnel, a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's the thing too, is you said, you have to trust the main metrics. The 3 things that I'm absolutely obsessed with, these are the 3 numbers that they cannot go down year over year. Is how many individual people own a Montana Knife Company knife. I track that metrics almost on a daily, if not weekly. And then the other one is how many people are visiting our website. And then the third is how many people are in our data pool, with email and SMS. Those are the 3 things that you can't really fake. I can't manipulate my segment to have a better open rate. I can manipulate my, segments to have better conversion rates. I could, obviously, when I was in the agency world, I could make all my numbers look amazing if I turn certain knobs and stuff like that. But when you're marketing like an owner, those numbers don't really matter because you can manipulate them. But they're still, don't get me wrong, I'm still looking at them. I'm still making sure they're healthy. I'm still making sure we're not going down. We're watching our open rates. We're watching deliverability, all that stuff. We're looking for red flags. But those 3 metrics, website traffic, how many people own a knife, and how big is their data pool, those are the 3 things. If you watch those 3 metrics, your business is going to be successful.
That's really good advice. And I appreciate that it's counterintuitive to what we normally hear. The other thing, you're so good at customer engagement. We heard about it a little bit with how the authenticity with which you approach your social media. The other thing you really do quite exceptionally well is reward your best customers. I heard you mentioned earlier a private Facebook group. I'm thinking there's a secret Facebook group. And I know you have a quite incredible customer loyalty program, the VIP program. Tell me about those efforts to just really capture and engage and know those best customers.
Right. So this all goes back to almost day one. Day one, obviously like Josh and I, like, we've gotten so much like unsolicited marketing and business advice. And the first thing is like, we got was like, hey, D2C is awesome. It's a flash in the pan. I knew that was wrong. But like, just so many of the traditional people inside, especially our hunting industry, our hunting industry, I always feel is like a little bit about 10 years behind, like I would say mass consumerism. So it's just, they're like, hey, like your goal is to get into wholesale. Like you want to get into big box stores and you want to do all this, but we're like, we don't want to give up that 40 to 50% margin. So we're like, let's hold off as long as humanly possible. And, and I'm watching other brands, they're spending all this money taking the sales rep out to dinner or taking the sales rep on these like expensive hunts, these, $50,000, $100,000 hunts. And I'm just like, we should be giving that back to our customers. So what Josh and I decided, we sat down with pen and paper, we looked at our data and we're like, okay, we have people that have spent, $300 with us the whole way up to tens of thousands of dollars. I don't even want to mention because I don't want someone's wife finding out. And like, so it's like, how do we reward these guys? Like how we would reward, Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop for placing a $20,000 order. Like we should be giving that much back to our big customers. So we set up these tiers. And the beautiful thing is you can't opt into this and it's completely secret. No one knows the different tiers, when the different breakdowns are. It's completely, we have it under lock and key. And we want to do it that way too, because we don't want people gamifying it. It's not meant to be gamified, and it's not meant for us to use as a marketing lever to get people to keep on trying to buy and buy and buy. So like the tiers are set up so that they're random, they're in different places and no one knows what they're going to get. And then also too, like depending on when we send stuff out, tier 6 might get a bow this month. Tier 6 next year might get like a rifle. Like we don't know. Like when we give away big prizes, big stuff like that. And in the end, like I think that's like the idea is like the whole time we started MKC, it was like, how would we want to be treated? Because we were massive fans of these big brands in the hunting industry, and they wouldn't even reply to our stories. And we're spending thousands of dollars on their camo and like all that stuff. So it's like, how do we just make sure that we're always responding to our customers? How are we always sharing their stories, their successes? And like, how does we like make sure that the touch points with MKC continue after they buy, not before they buy?
Tell me about that secret Facebook group.
Yeah. So this is completely set up organically. I can't take any credit for it. We have a couple MKC super fans. I believe the page is up over like 6,000 or 7,000 people right now. And they buy, sell, trade MKC knives. I mean, I cannot believe the rate of engagement in that Facebook group. If you go in there, I mean, there's almost a new post every 3 or 4 minutes. 24 hours a day. It is super engaging. And Josh and I, they did make us admins, but we try not to I've never we don't touch posts. We don't manipulate posts. We just we want this to stay as organic as possible. We're just in there to answer questions, answer customer service issues. And then, obviously I like to go and then reward those guys. So I'll give them, they'll be the first people to know about, new knives, or, if there's ever a secret batch of knives on the website, I usually go in there hey guys, just heads up, I'll go check out this URL, or throw something cryptic in there. And, but it's called the MKC User Society. And I even put some time and I branded it for them. We have a t-shirt you can buy on our website if you're a member of that Facebook group, but it's all for those guys. Like I said, that's all set up by our fans.
And you mentioned stuff they can buy on your website. It's a Shopify store, of course. Has MKC been on Shopify for the full run?
Yes, that is so. Like I said, with me doing e-commerce for almost 20 years, I was on every single platform depending on what the client was. So WordPress and Magento, and there's some other weird ones I got thrown on. I just Shopify was just the clear answer, and it's not even to sound like a Shopify commercial, but it's just there's not even another option right now for what we're doing, especially when you're 100% direct to consumer. It's just the best fit.
Are there any apps, features, tools in Shopify that you just can't live without? These are your favorites. These are your go-tos.
Oh, absolutely. So right now, what's working really well for us is Rebuy. That is just, I say that's one of our best employees, is the Rebuy app. Because it just works all day long, 24 hours a day. So the Rebuy app is doing absolutely amazing. We've had a lot of success with retention.com. That app it's crazy because you talk to some people and they're like, it's not working. And then for us, like you like, that's one of our like best producing apps, almost to the point. And then we also stacked Black Crow on top of retention. So we're kind of doubling the same
Yeah, they
app.
do. Black Crow retention do similar things, right?
Yeah, they do very similar things, but there are some deviating points on how they help manage data and stuff like that. So for us, it's actually makes sense to run both. I wouldn't recommend that. It took a lot of customization and flow segmenting and like stuff like that to make sure it runs smoothly. But like to us, like new customers is all that we care about. So any way that we can get them to sign up for an email or be able to like tell them our story better than just like hearing it from a friend, like that's like we're going to invest as much as we can into that.
And when you have these product drops weekly, you're sending a lot of people to the site, and potentially you're sending them all at once, and they're all trying to buy. Everybody's trying to rush through the door. That's a fear for some merchants, is like, well, if I have that level of success, will the site stay up? Has this ever been an issue where the site, like, it couldn't handle the traffic?
No. Shopify, I mean, like I said, like we're doing, like I said, we always try to like avoid how many orders we're doing, because we always have this saying in Montana that it's rude to ask a rancher how many head of cattle he has, and it's also rude to ask a farmer how many acres he farms. But like like our site is getting flooded every single Thursday night. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people hitting that at one time. That Shopify site never shutters before that. And like you can see that over the weekend, Kanye West just did what, $2.3 million in the first couple hours of his drop. And I believe he's on a Shopify site. So I don't think there's like I said, if Kanye is fine, I think MKC is going to do okay.
Is that our marketing role model? We're going to go with what Yi does.
I mean,
because he's been successful.
He has been. I mean, but like I said, like just volume wise, I know I can guess by that volume how many people actually want to visit his site. And I was like I said, if he's fine, he's doing pretty good. But I will say, but there are, for people that are doing this, like there are headaches to this style of marketing, especially if you, and I say not even style marketing, this is our only way to doing business, because like we don't have another option. We can't do pre-orders. And if we just slowly and so that's the thing too. So if we do pre-orders, we can only take a pre-order for as many knives as we're going to be able to sell them. So it's either the pre-order sells out instantly or the actual knives sell out instantly, and we're able to ship them the next day within 24 hours. I rather take their money and then ship their package literally like 8 hours later. That to me is a much better customer experience. But when you do send that many people to your website and you only have, a couple thousand knives, there are going to be people who are not going to be able to get your knife, or they're going to land on your website after they're sold out, because that's the thing with Shopify is that, it's their system is set up so that if you put the knife in the cart, you go through checkout, and if that knife sells out before you finish your credit card information, it pulls it out of your cart and tells you you can't finish your order. So that causes a lot of disgruntled, customers. But that's also why we double down on our customer service. We have couple of the best customer service people to help handle those nights. And they all have to be online at 7:00 every single drop to help mediate some of the chaos.
And so, well, all right. So one of the things that's just about MKC is, for people who aren't into knives, they may think like, knives, pocket knives, it's just dudes is the audience. And the reality is that within knives, you could really break that up even more, right? Like hunting knife is different than like a tool or utility knife, different than cutlery, etc. And like based on MKC's branding, your posts, your interests, it's very much hunting focused. Does that represent in your head opportunity or liability that you have, like, this a niche within a niche?
I think it's full opportunity, because like we're selling the hardest knife to sell when you go talk to any of our peers. A fixed blade hunting knife, is probably their smallest. Any of our real peers that are in the game doing big volume and stuff like that, like their probably smallest demo are hunters, because only 2% of the United States has a hunting tag in their pocket at any time in the year. So you take 2% of the country, like those are the people who are actually using the knife. Obviously like our knives are being adopted for everyday carry and stuff like that. But, in the knife world, the two biggest markets are, culinary, for cutlery, and then pocket knives. Most of our peers, they're probably selling, 8 pocket knives to every one fixed blade. and we're growing this business, just selling fixed blades right now. We do have a plan for a pocket knife, but we want to do it the way that we did with the fixed blade. Like when we confidently say like, this is the best fixed blade knife for a hunter, you could take this going on any hunt anywhere in the world, like for any duration of time. Like that's our promise. We want to make sure we're doing that with a pocket knife too, because a pocket knife, comes with its own layer of complexities when you start adding in mechanisms that lock the knife and move and stuff like that. So, and to do it 100% in the United States, and not only do we want to just do it, because like we had the opportunity to go do some like white label stuff from like other companies. We're like, no, one thing we will always do is if it has a edge on it and it's going to get made in-house, we want our fingerprints on that. So that's what we're building our next facility for, is to like get into the pocket knife game.
Would mailing folding knives to people wipe your fingerprints off before you send it to them?
I never thought about that. Like, I think we're gonna
That was a stupid joke. I'm glad that worked.
But I know, but it's funny because we're always like waiting for one of our knives to pop up on a police report. So,
jeez.
Yeah.
All right, I want to talk about the future of MKC. You recently broke ground on a new facility, a 1,000 square foot facility. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so this is something we were not expecting to do this early on. So, 4 years ago, we started in a 2-car garage, and we had 6 or 7 employees in there. And then literally right behind that 2-car garage on Josh's property, we built a 10,000 square foot, just kind of like, manufacturing facility. It just has some offices and a lot of open space for manufacturing. And that was supposed to be like our 5-year fix from that 2-year point. So we weren't even supposed to even talk about the next facility for at least 7 years. Literally, we moved in and within months, we're like, so we outgrew the space, almost instantly. And right now, like even my own personal office, I just filled it full of the creative content team, the video editors, because they can at least put headphones on when I'm on meetings. So we're cramming 3 or 4 people in every single office, and we're just all going to get a little personal until we have our new facility built.
What is it that gave you the confidence to say, we just built this facility, now we're going to turn around and do it again?
Honestly, it's okay. It's the constant sell-throughs, also to just knowing that we own the data. So there's no, like, I'm not relying on anybody else, and there's no niche. This isn't like a flash in the pan. There isn't like some.
It's not loophole. A gimmick. Knives aren't going away.
Yeah, they're not going away, and there's also no like Amazon loophole attached to this, this growth or something like that. This is as grassroots, as organic as it gets. And like, that's a big thing. And then also too, the one thing we take pride in is like our NPS score, our net promoter score. Like that's the one thing you can't like fake too. So, a lot of brands, will do this and, are really good scores in the 50s. Unheard of is in the 80s. For the past 3 years, we have scored a 91 or higher. And that's for, somebody who, is absolutely a brand advocate for you. So all of our customers like love our brand. That's the confidence that we have to go and do this. And then also too, like, you have one life. And I don't want to sound, motivationally or like, just hustle harder kind of feeling, but it's like, we get one shot at this, and it's like, it's the momentum's there to do this. But then also too, we're building a manufacturing facility. At the end of the day, if somehow knives dry up, we can turn that manufacturing facility into something else and retain those employees. Like, we're training all these employees on how to use the machines and stuff like that. So that's the thing that people don't realize about when you build an American-made business and you own the process of manufacturing your own product. 9 times out of 10, you could probably pivot and manufacture something else. So like there's, we have confidence in the MKC brand, but there's also, we have confidence in us being resilient if things do change. I mean, I graduated college in 2008 when the world was collapsing. We launched this company.
Me too.
Yeah. So we launched this company during COVID. So, I know like I have enough trust in myself. I have enough trust in Josh, in our leadership team, that like, if anything happens, like, we're good. We'll figure it out.
I'm happy to hear it. And I also love, you're putting your money where your mouth is. But one of the things I've heard you say before is you got to, as a brand, you need to be more excited about the product than the customer could ever be. And it's absolutely true. That is your approach here. And you could hear it and see it in your actions. Looking back, what's one thing you would have done differently?
Looking back, so this is a really good question. So one thing I wish I would have done differently is that, we leaned really hard on contractors when we started this company. So let's just say for like the financial side or legal or stuff like that, like when we started this company, we always worked with contractors that could handle our current size. I wish someone would have told us like, hey, it's going to cost more, but try to find like, so say for like accounting firm or, a CPA or any of those like stuff that's kind of like outside the marketing world, but like go work with an agency or a contractor that is where you want to be, not where you're currently at right now. Because that definitely caused a bunch of hiccups, especially in the D2C world. We're in Montana. Not a lot of our CPAs and accounting firms in the state of Montana has ever dealt with a D2C company hitting Nexus in all 50 states. Like they didn't even know what the word Nexus meant. So obviously the taxes and all that stuff is like, I wish we would have just got ahead of that better. Like it didn't bite us too bad, but it's definitely something we had to take a couple steps back and get the right systems in place.
It's good advice, and yeah, sales tax always a headache. You want to make sure you're ahead and detailed on your taxes. All right, it's early in 2025. What's next for MKC? What's on the horizon?
So, like obviously like 2025 is pretty much all planned out. Like that's one thing I have to give our team credit is that we're, a lot of it seems chaotic because a lot of times we don't have knives. Like literally the Cam Hanes knife that we dropped last week, we didn't have a physical sample 10 days before it dropped. Like that's how close some of our manufacturing to launch dates are. But that's what makes this fun. We know the process. We just have to do the cool creative. So we have the next 52 weeks literally planned out. We know exactly what we're dropping every single Thursday. But going into 2026, this is where it starts to get real fun. Because like I said, we're going to start introducing the possibility of a folder. That folder is going to introduce, many different manufacturing changes that we have to make, because we go from assembly to like some major manufacturing that's very, very precise engineering and movements and like how things get installed. So it's going to push our engineering team. It's going to push our ops team. It's going to push our hiring. It's going to push a lot of us. And then at the same time, we still have to run the fixed blade, business itself at the same exact time as we're tooling up for a completely different, almost, completely different business.
There is so much opportunity ahead of you. And I'm also so excited and desperate for an MKC folding knife. How cool would that be?
I know. I am too. Trust me.
That's, because you're right. Of the knife market, you pick the small one, right? Like,
yeah.
And you've got the chef knives now, but man, if I go in a big box store and you go look at their knife section, you're going to see majority folding knives. That's, that's the big consumer product, right? It's still men often carry pocket knives. And those make good gifts too. So really, I can see where that hugely expands things, but also you're right. I mean, the difference in complexity between folding knife and fixed blade, massive.
Right. And that's the difference is, someone, wearing a suit to work can still have a small pocket knife in their pocket. They can't really carry a fixed blade on their hip, into a bank, or into the boardroom or anything like that. I mean, you can, that's that's a sign of grit that I've never seen before. But, like you said, most like that pocket knife side of our business is going to open it up from like 2% of the United States to like, honestly, 50%, of every male with a pocket. And I'm not saying females won't carry them, but we just lean very heavy on the male side. So I'm not going to assume any other new demographics.
Yeah. And okay, what's your advice for other Shopify merchants who are seeing your success and saying, man, I wish I had a little bit of that too?
Yeah. Invest in your website. Invest in your website more than you invest in anything else. Because at the end of the day, that is your first and last contact with most of your customers. That is one thing that we have done from day one. I got to see it with previous clients, previous agencies, stuff like that. And that's one thing that, we do really, really well. We invest heavily in our own content creation. So we have 3 full-time content creators. We have a full graphic designer on staff. We have an e-commerce, director who handles our entire stack. But the biggest thing is what I have to tell people is like, if you can't hire for it, go find the right agency to partner with. And don't go cheap on it. Like, and that's where, where you and I got to spend a lot of time last year together is, we completely redesigned the MKC website. And what was amazing working with you guys is that like we're hold our content so close to our chest, and like we want to make sure it's our voice and all of that stuff, but we're not coders, and like we're not dev people, and we're not like that's not our thing. And we knew that, and like that's why we actually liked partnering with you the best is like, hey, we have some wild ideas, and you're like, oh yeah, we could do that. But you're like, hey, we need content for us. Like, we got that. We have literally a Dropbox folder of thousands of images. So that's one piece of advice I give is like invest in that website, constantly invest with that website, listen to these podcasts, listen to these ads about new apps and stuff like that. I know it sounds crazy, but like if you can be one of the first people on new apps, like sometimes those app companies will actually like adopt you and help you more than most companies, and try to use you as a set example of like, hey, this app works, which has happened with us a couple times. So always be testing new apps, always be investing in the website.
I am thrilled with that advice. And I wish we had more projects and clients like Montana Knife Company, because that is when you can marry that energy plus the content to our ability to create a theme, build a layout, and get something very functional. We can't be excited about your product for you, and you have to be able to create that content for us for it to really sing. Like, we could only take it so far. And so when you compare that, I mean, you really could get an incredible result out of it. And that's why I've always been so proud of our work together with Montana Knife Company. Man, Brandon, thank you so much. All right, what's the website? Where can we go learn more?
Yeah, so montanaknifecompany.com, on Instagram at Montana Knife Company. After 4 years, we finally got our blue check mark. Very proud of that moment for a knife company receiving a blue check mark. So like those are the biggest things, and then also too, I just want to leave your listeners with this. There's a lot of marketers who are listening to this podcast. And, I grew up in the Tim Ferriss generation of the 4-hour work week and try to make it as lean as possible and minimal as possible. But if you're a really, really, really good marketer, I just ask you, for one of your projects, for one of your businesses, go support American made company. Like try to work with American made company, see how much you can build it, how many employees you can hire or help hire and all that stuff. Like I just want to kind of push all marketers to at least try to do that. Try not to always just chase like the biggest return, but like how much change can you make in your community, in your country, especially moving forward. Like we're going to need that more often.
I agree. Brandon, you're the best. Thank you so much. Brandon, Montana Knife Company. Thank you.
Awesome, Kurt. I appreciate it.